Hello everybody, welcome along to the JACKOCAR Cup Series. It is Season 7, Round 13 here at Saudi Arabia. We're starting half an hour late, but you know what, who cares? We're here and we didn't think we would be. I'm your commentator Owen Wyatt. With me I have got Jacko, and we're both sort of breathing a sigh of relief here.
Do you think?
Just a little
I'll
bit.
tell you someone who is breathing a sigh of relief. It was Mr. Jake O'Sullivan, because he did not want a postponement, because that means he misses next week's race, which could have been 2 races. I personally would have been down for that. I think that would have been quite funny, having 2 playoff rounds. Sorry, a single playoff round, both races in the same week. That'd be brilliant. But thankfully, everyone that was here 31 minutes ago is still here, so we are going to be underway for Saudi Arabia. I guess we've got to do all the introductions again, Owen, have we? Pete's with us. Anyway, where were we?
Thank you for that. Excellent.
Welcome,
stuff.
Pete.
We'll say our pleasantries after the Grand Prix.
Well, assuming
When you
it
make
happens.
Back to the top step after 1,113 days.
And
I hope
104
so.
races.
104 JACKOCAR races.
Yeah, Pete's
Lovely.
actually missed 4 of those, so it is a centenary of races since you last stood on the top step back in Monza, I want to say.
I want to say Monza as well. I feel like it was
Yeah.
Monza. Because what was
I
it?
think
You
it was
won-
Monza. It was the Hungary, Spa,
Hungary,
and
Spa,
Monza was my
oh,
3.
Yeah, the back-to-backs. And
One
then
of
you fell
only
off.
3 drivers to do 3 in a row as well.
Yeah.
Is it 3 or is it 2? Because Kyle's done it.
And Jamie's done it.
What, Jamie Wright?
I'm sure he has. I'm sure I saw on one of your stat sheets that Jamie had 3 in a row.
That'll be
Oh,
Jacko
I'll tell you what.
frantically going through his
Yeah,
record
well,
books.
I'll let you two
I could be
talk and
wrong,
I'll come
but
back
I'm
to
pretty
you.
sure.
Well, while Jacko looks for this mythical stat, you are one of the 3 Joker drivers tonight then, Pete. And I bet you're sick of us asking this question now, but do you think that you can win this race tonight around Saudi Arabia? You were good here in the Kia Series last season when you subbed in. And, well, you've seen 1 aborted lap, and you've had 1 aborted lap yourself already tonight, so you know what's what here in qualifying. How do you think you'll get on?
Hopefully a lot better than I did on that little warm-up lap I did, but we will see. I am very confident. I have consistent pace around this track. It's one of my favourites to drive. Being on the Joker has its advantages, but it's all going to be now down to strategy and safety car. When will those come out, if they do? Brazil last week. It took a long while for a safety car to come out.
Yeah, tell me
So
about
we'll
it.
see.
It took
That's like-
forever.
Deja vu, seeing OKK coming back out the track. I wonder if he does his DRS thing. No.
I thought about it.
Speaking of mythical stats, Pete Knighton is the only man to have ever won 3 in a row, with the exception of Kyle Smith, who won 4 in a row. And that was, well, season 1 and 2 respectively. Since then, since race 23, nobody has won more than 2 races in
my
a row.
Crazy.
As we see OKK in the wall
Yeah, he's
in
broke the
Saudi
front wing.
Arabia.
He's broke the front wing on the outlap. Can you believe it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the false start we had. Obviously, that video will be deleted. But
Yes.
how OKK, one of the
Didn't
fan
do that.
favourites, still, yeah, he didn't. Just needs a good result, doesn't he? He comes into this quite a long way down in points. I can tell you now, he's minus 18 with 4 races to go before that Championship 5 race in Silverstone. It's basically the halfway point of the season, of the postseason. If he's going to do anything, it's got to be tonight to give yourself a chance.
To put that 18 points into context as well, by the way, that's not the top 10 in the championship where 18 points can swing. This is the bottom of the championship where you're only going to be picking up a handful of points per race. That 18 points is more like a 40 or 50 point gap realistically if you're at the top. So that's the sort of mountain that OKK is actually having to climb in the next few races. And well, battering your front wing on the outlap is not the way to do it. We'll ride on board anyway for a lap, and we'll see how he gets on. He'll give us a chance to run through the track there. 27 corners here in Saudi Arabia, 3 DRS zones. We're in the 3rd of them now on the way towards Turn 1. And well, he's clearly not turned his ABS back on after the ABS issues we had in the last lobby. I wonder if people actually need to remember to change that setting, because OKK doesn't tend to run with ABS off, and he's missing all the corners as well as he heads through the twisty section of Sector 1 all the way through 4 to 12. Not really going to be that quick, is it? But he's keeping it valid. You notice him, he's properly braking when he goes up the road, just to get a time on the board, because he knows he's not going to be the only one who makes a mistake around here.
That's very loud, Owen.
Yeah, I hate living here. Through turn 13. Through turn 13, the track now goes back on itself as OKK heads down into the proper send corners of, well, first of all 15, or 16, sorry. 16, 17 at chicane, and then the 22, 23 chicane. This is going to be a significantly easier corner on F1 23, so enjoy it in its full send form now, before it gets properly tightened. That's assuming, of course, Codemasters update the track layout, which is actually quite a big thing to do, so maybe they won't do it. Hopefully they don't, because I prefer this to the current layout that we have for the track. This stretch actually is 3 corners, 25, 26, and this one, 27, and he's just not even going to attempt to make that one. Oh, KK. I think we've seen enough. Let's move on.
Here we have Waze.
Waze. No, he's not even come out. Christ above it.
Okay, Pete then.
Or Risky. That's
Is it Risky?
I think it's Risky. As he, yes, it's Risky. As he heads through Risky, who's just 6 points off in the chase, which is definitely a lot more favourable. That can be overturned in one race for a chase driver. Michel Goris is the chase leader on 524 points, and as we say, Risky 518. Let's ride on board then, and hopefully maybe get a better idea of the speed for the high speed sections. DRS is in the middle of the run. Well, how many corners does this DRS actually last through? It lasts through nearly 4 corners, this DRS zone. Obviously, it wasn't like this in F1 2021. It was still on the run from 12 to 13, which it never was in real life. But so they moved it to the correct spot this time. And obviously the DRS zone right till the end of 27 is where it always was. DRS detection point through the entry of the final corner, and the restart zone on the DRS activation point, which is where Risky has just gone through now. I imagine we'll probably use that restart zone a few times tonight, Jacko, as Risky sets the first competitive time of the session.
Yeah, I think we will, certainly more than once in races we've seen here before, Cup and Kia, as we look now to the first of tonight's Jokers. Of course there are 2, Carl Smith the other one. This one, we chatted to him earlier, Pete Knighton, on his run up to the hairpin, and goes wide as I've distracted him. But keep it valid, Pete, and be my guest if you want to take over for the rest of this lap, or is it totally ruined?
It's a bit ruined. I did press the mute button on my controller, and then my wheel decided to go, you know what, you don't need force feedback.
That's it, yeah, nice excuse.
I had a good first sector, nice and clean through the S's, with that corner, just a little mistake.
Just a little mistake, of course. It's all about what happens in the race. Of course, all you can gain out of qualifying is the 1 playoff point for going pole. Obviously, that will be forgotten about on this lap, as we will move away in a second to look at Leroy. But of course, big things coming tonight from Pete Knight, and he advises us earlier on. We'll stay on board just to see what he could have done and take 2 seconds off of this. Does actually go P1. That's a very good lap indeed. What a great shame. 1 minute 30 dead.
Right, let's see a better driver then. Here is Leroy. Well, I say that Leroy is ahead of you, Pete, in the chase down for 5 points. You're 14 points off. Leroy's 9 points off Michel Goris, and it is actually kind of a surprise to see Leroy in the chase. Didn't really even think about this last week, but yeah, odd to see him down here, and hopefully he won't be here for too long as he comes across the line, and it is 3/4 of a second, or 2/3 of a second, there we go, up on Pete's time, and yes, P1.
Yeah, the thing with Leroy is he thinks because he's having a bad season in Cup that he's entitled to go back to Kia, but that's not the case. He chose to turn medium traction off to go to no traction, so that his place in Cup Series remains as permanent, and he will not be featured in the Kia Series. As we see Michel Goris, the chase leader, invalidate. Of course, he will have to complete the hot lap and the in lap. He leads the chase by a single point over Ben Harrett, who we'll see very shortly.
He's only
We may as well move away from him.
He's on his outlap there, so we'll try.
Was that outlap? Was it?
Yeah. Or no, sorry, I'm saying about
No, that was hot lap.
Ben Harrett. I just want to catch as much of his as possible. No offense to Connor, who sits himself 17 points off, but that's a big opportunity. It's just opened itself up for Ben Harrett. So see how these 2 laps go. Connor 17 points off. That's the best finish of 3rd this season. Should have been a win, but he's probably thankful it wasn't really, because he would have been knocked out of the championship by now.
I hope you haven't forgotten Jess Owen, who is actually on her flying lap at the moment.
Is she? Oh, for goodness sake.
Yes, you forgot Jess, didn't you?
Apologies to Jess. I get overexcited seeing Ben as the main challenger contender. So they're thinking, yes, we'll watch him, then we'll watch Connor, but we'll watch Jess, who was very happy to find that Connor's sport is it called? Colours are the same as hers, which just means she'll have to change her colours for next season. But oh well. 4th place for Jess. Right, now we can watch Connor.
Yep.
In the nicer purple livery, no offence.
Seeing as you were so keen to commentate over him, I'll let you take this lap, Owen.
It's just such a nice livery, isn't it? And we always say it's about Connor. It's been the thing since day one, and under the lights here, it's just the metallic purple, the slightly magenta helmet, the orange sponsors on there. I don't know, the little flashes of black and white. It's just so nice, and he can't win in it for his life. But we'll see how the lap goes for the man who didn't even think he's going to be here. And that is a competitive middle sector for Connor. That is properly competitive. That should be right up with the pace of Leroy, which is good news, assuming it all doesn't fall apart at the final corner. As Connor hugs tight to the inside of 26 and gets himself just wide of the apex of 27. Well in the throttle though. DRS detect or activation comes up here. Hold the inside line, you won't lose your lap like Logan Sargent did, and he will go fastest of all. So good stuff there from Connor. And Ben Harrett, well, he just has to get this lap done, but he's a second off of Connor's pace for the middle sector. So the man who won in Imola is probably not going to end up starting all that high up the grid here in Saudi Arabia. And I must say again, that is a stunning livery.
I remember when he revealed this livery, he sent it to me first and he said, "Do you reckon Owen will like this?"
Oh, he does.
I said yes, because there's green on it. But
beautiful.
Here comes Ben Harrett. It's only good enough for P5 then, as we move on to Mike Kelterborn, one of the other race winners this season.
But sadly, the first of the eliminated drivers this season.
Yep, along with Jamie Griffiths, who's out right after him. Into the second DRS detection point comes Mike Kelterborn of Germany, driving Pete's old number, the 21 car. That is a championship winning number, don't forget. Mike.
That's not done much good, has it? As he heads
but around into the final corner then comes Mike. Can he avoid the wall one like Verstappen? Just about. And be DRS then to the line here. It takes that white line that brings you down the lane for the pit wall, but it's only good for P6, slower than Ben Harrett. And what a shame to see Mike's season ending like this.
And Jamie Griffiths has not taken his removal from the playoffs too well. He's invalidating his first qualifying lap since it happened, so it's a shame to see that livery not doing too well. But we'll move on to Yuri.
Drivers still in contention.
Yes, finally someone who's interesting enough to watch. Oh my god. Do you know what? Well saved, actually. Well saved, because he's not damaged the car, and he really should have done there. So, do you know what? We'll give him that, Yuri, but it will cost him about a second. And this is a livery template that I haven't got on the game, which is really annoying me. I don't know when it came out. I really, really wish I had it, because it looks so nice. We saw Marcus Schneider run this as well in the 07 McLaren Vodafone colours the other day, and this is obviously the IndyCar Alex Rossi McLaren colours, and I really, really, really want that livery template, but oh well. Yuri will still attempt to drive it to a decent position, although of course with that mistake in 16 it's not going to be as fast as he would have wanted, or not through 16, through 13. Let's see though, he's got a 29 dead to beat, and he'll be about 2.5 seconds off that, in 8th place.
And Yuri coming into this -3 off the cut line. Of course, it is 2 drivers will be eliminated at the end of next week's race, but of course all the work has to be done across those 2 races. Yori in that drop zone with Kyle Smith, who isn't out yet. It is Casper first, who very nearly won in San Marino if it wasn't for a late corner cut penalty. He was forced wide under pressure, and then of course the penalty that was given to Kieran, rightfully given to Kieran, meant that Ben Harrett was promoted into the win. That's why he stands in such a good place in the chase. But here comes Casper then, moves to the inside of the, I think that's a slowing Jamie Griffiths, wasn't it? And down into the final corner for Casper. He's a man that relies a lot on confidence, and he certainly needs to build some back up to try and get into the round of 6. But here he goes to the line. It's P1 for now, a 28.4, the new benchmark. Owen Wyatt.
That is some distance ahead, isn't it? As Kyle gets the final corner. Oh no, it's just lag. Hopefully it's not EA going down again. As Kyle, the other Joker driver out there, goes second fastest ahead of his ART teammate of Connor. And we will move on to Mr. Kieran Spears next, I believe, if I can find him. Here he comes through the full send section.
Righted the wrongs last week, didn't he, in Brazil, winning that race. Final lap pass once again on Ben Shaw, who, when I tuned in during the football, who looked comfortable, did Ben. But Kieran, fair play to him, getting back into the race and winning it, and giving himself the best opportunity possible to go into the round of 6. He said to me earlier that he's used this template in the hope that it looks awful when you complain about it, Owen, but I actually think it looks quite nice.
Not given me a chance to bitch about it, but
sorry, you got half a second.
Yeah, it's ugly as hell. There's no sponsors or anything on it to improve it. It's just flat. Or apart from the rear wing, but that's a disgusting red sponsor on the back of it. So you've done your job, Kieran.
I like it, Kieran.
I mean, you know what? Who was it? Ferragamo who did the better bad liveries. Was it him?
Yes. Go back.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose it's somewhat of a worry. At least he's a champion in this one, but still, it's not. It's just not the same. It's just grim for grim's sake. You know what I mean? As we see, Jamie Wright, the next driver through, and well, according to the stat sheet that we've been provided with, the man who's led the most laps out of this grid, 380. I want to lap out. I want to lead a few more, but he's not going to with his qualifying that because it's going to put him a little bit further down than he would have expected. Behind Connor, who's still staying up there in 4th place. Very impressive for the chase driver. Jimmy Wright in 5th.
Connor, of course, almost deleted his game about 17 minutes ago, and he found himself in the top 5 still, so brilliant effort. Jamie Wright and this man, Ben Shaw, level on all-time playoff points, 121 each. The record, 122, set by Arnaud. Arnaud also is the all-time laps leader, seeing as you mentioned it, Owen, on 400 and something, but that was a very long-standing stat, which I'm sure will be beaten next season as we watch Jamie Wright into this final complex. Did I say Jamie Wright? Ben Shaw into this final complex. If he goes pole tonight, Ben Shaw will lead the pole record, the all-time pole record. He's on 16 along with Arnaud and Jamie Wright. Can he make it 17? Ben Shaw does not, and stays behind Casper. It's 2 to go then. Gareth and then Jake.
Gareth, who, while he has the second most points this season, only finds himself, I think, 5th in the championship due to the fact he just doesn't win any races. All of the guys above him in the playoffs have combined, 9 wins between them. Gareth really does need to win a race if he fancies getting himself through into the Championship 5. He is only 2 points behind Kieran Spears, but still, he wants to actually show he can do it, and he doesn't want to do it like Jake did, where he just happens to win the final race at the right time, because you don't always get that lucky. As he comes through the final corner, and I'm trying my best not to throw up, but well, we'll see as the car comes across the line. It's going to be nowhere. He's nowhere, is Gareth.
He audibly hates this track as well, does Gareth. He will be the first to tell you that.
And here
but attention must turn then.
The man who's already advanced. He has the most wins this season, and is the only driver to win around Saudi Arabia. You would say a Jake win is almost a certainty, but you never know in JACKOCAR. And with the 4 he's been on, though, it has to say he's quite a scary driver, is Jake. And obviously this is where it all really began for him, ironically. It was the Championship 5. You qualify for it, and everyone But if it's 4 of us in the commentary box, not one of us said Jake would win it. Then he shows up, wins the Championship 5, misses the first 3 races of the next season, comes back to Saudi Arabia, wins it again, so he won 2 races in a row, and since then, he really has been the man. Didn't quite happen for him in the Season 6 Championship, but he's certainly the favourite this season. He's the favourite for pole, he's on pole, and that is going to be a very hard driver to beat tonight.
Yep, and another point, not that he needs it, another playoff point in fact, but it will go to his total. So he now finds himself on 2,071, but we may as well call it 3,072.
Yes.
Because like you say, Owen, he is already in the round of 6. He's waiting on the likes of Ben, Jamie, Kieran, Gareth, Casper, Kyle or Yuri to join him. So take your pick out. Take 3 of them, but 3 of them will be joining Jake in the Championship 5. I am almost certain of it. That pole position, by the way, equals Ben Shaw's record from last season of 7 poles in a season.
He has been just dominant. I mean, we should probably get a driver's perspective on it, really. I mean, how do you deal with a driver, Pete, who is just that dominant? Because obviously you've been in Championship fights before. I mean, I know it's more in the earlier days, but when there's someone who just looks so dominant, how do you deal with it?
You got to just think of the situation that is JACKOCAR. You've seen people that are win rated. You put them in another league in the quality of drivers we have, and they won't be anywhere near the top 5. But with the format that JACKOCAR has, it gives an opportunity for those drivers to bring out a standout performance. Maybe you just be one in a blue moon kind of scenario, but they could win the Grand Prix, qualify through to Championship 5, even win the Championship. We saw Jake go through the chase to get his Championship 5 seat, and he went on to win it, so anything's possible in JACKOCAR. But with someone who's dominant, we tend to get rid of them, don't we? Khalifa left, Corey's gone, Arnaud's gone, is Kadaman next to go? I hope not, but we'll see.
Even Kyle took a 1-year sabbatical, although of course never actually won the championship, did he? Right, I got 15 seconds here. Jake's on pole, Casper, Iceman, Kieran, Kyle, our Joker driver, Connor, Jamie, Leroy, Pete the other Joker driver, Gareth, Risky, Ben Harrett, MK Bourne, Jess, Yuri, OKK, Michelle Gorries, Wes, and Jamie Griffiths is the 19 driver grid.
Not Owen Russian, like he's not going to have 2 minutes to go through all those names
I
again.
know, but we
in a
always
second
find
anyway.
something to moan about on the formation app, and I got to remember, I can't look at the screen while Gareth's livery's on it.
That's true, actually. Good qualifying, actually, in the end for Pete. Only P9 there, but if he can avoid the carnage at the start, which of course we do expect, 1 stop advantage here, you're in a good place, Mr. Knighton, so hopefully you can do something with that Joker. Even if it's not a win, like a podium would be fantastic for your chase campaign as you look to return to the Championship 5 for the first time since Season 1.
Yeah, I'm just sorting my strategy out, deciding what tyres to start on.
Do tell.
No.
No, we'll let him off that.
We'll think about it. You'll find out what tyres I'm on at the start of the race anyway.
Yeah.
So
This guy's boring. We need to get someone new next week.
what do you mean? Boring. If you want to know, I'm on the floor in the car. I'm starting on the hard tyres. There you go.
And there is someone in the chat asking for free jokers, but obviously we do have Tez, who's not here.
I'll tell you what, that man in the chat is actually Kyle Smith's dad, by the way.
Is it?
So hello. Yes, hello Scott. This is your first shout out on stream. Oh, did I lose my voice? Yes. Apparently, Kyle's dad is a massive JACKOCAR fan, and who can blame him? So am I.
Your kid's not won much, has he?
Only the 11 races in
Yep.
Cup.
Bottle 2 championships. Aiming for a 3rd.
2 or 3?
Sounds like Ben Shaw.
Sounds like a few drivers on this grid, actually.
Yeah.
Need to get all.
Kyle, actually, seeing as Mr. Smith is here, I'll tell you a good stat about Kyle, okay? He actually has the best start to finish ratio of any driver ever in the league. 68 starts. Oh, this is 69 tonight. And only 3 DNFs. And 58 of those starts turning into top 10 finishes, would you believe? Which, again, I think that is a league record as well in percentage terms.
Right then, so we have got some tyres on some cars. Let's discuss. Most of the grid is starting on the softs, as I suppose you would expect with a 2-stop race. But we have got Kieran on mediums. We've got Jamie Wright on mediums. We've got Jamie Griffiths on mediums. And then, to no one's surprise, Kyle and, of course, Pete on the hards. So that'll be our two Joker drivers, and obviously looking at going far. Are you wanting any safety cars to pop up tonight, or are you hoping it stays green?
If a safety car does come, I'm looking for around the lap 15 onwards mark, realistically.
So once Pete's already made his stop, then that's what he's hoping. Of course, you got Kyle up there as well in P5. I imagine he'll be thinking the same thing. And also looking further up the grid, you've got Casper, who I said in qualifying is a man who relies on confidence and good results. Alright, he lost out on pole, but he'll have clean air in front of him at the start, and he'll be thinking back to San Marino where he had that, you know, the race win was there for him. If he's got a clear track in front of him, he's a man that can drive away. Don't forget, he may not have had the best season this season, but 6 race wins in the Cup Series before Casper, so keep your eye out on him as a one to watch.
Well, he's going to need to be a one to watch, isn't he? Because he's got a lot of ground to make up in the championship, so he has to be targeting flat just winning the race. He's going to, I wonder if he goes for it straight away into turn 1. It's a decent enough run, although of course anyone who did watch the Championship 5 back in Season 5 will know that Jake is a bit of an expert at making moves at turn 1 stick. Iceman will remember that very well too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they'll get on. What do you do for tyre warm-up, Pete? Because I feel like we always get a different answer from different drivers. Because if it were me on a night lap, I would tend to basically cook the tyres. Even if it puts 5-10% wear on them, you cook the tyres. Because the first lap, especially on the hards, must be impossible.
Yeah, but what I like to do when you're on formation, I'm trying to take 4 corners as fast as possible to try and generate that heat, rather than just moving the wheel side to side at low speed. Try and take corners as quickly as possible to generate the heat in the fronts. The rears are a bit easier with using no traction control, but they have started to cool down quite a lot as there are a few drivers spinning on the grid.
Yes.
Which is interesting. I thought that was banned.
Yeah, so did I. Oh dear.
And I've missed my good stop because J-Luke decided to drive through me.
Yep. The excuses have come out already. As we see the rest of the drivers onto the grid. And we'll wait then the lights. 25 laps here in Saudi Arabia. Eventually. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing. It's a decent start straight away from Casper, but then has wheel spin in the second phase. And there's a few cars stopped on the grid. Potential for safety car there as we see Jake leading away. And we do get a safety car, I believe. Is that, or is it
VSC?
VSC just. So that's Gareth's yellow dot. So it's Wace and Kyle out of the race already. So that means you are the only Joker still in it. And you've made up 2 spots already. So that's worked out quite well. It looked like Kyle didn't move at all off the grid to me, and he just got rear-ended, and Connor now out of it too. So what's happened there, I wonder? That's a bizarre start.
It was also Gareth on the start, looked like he didn't go anywhere, and then Waze hit the back of him. I don't know how Kyle went from, what was he, P5 down to 19th. Instantly disqualified.
Because the lights for me went off and they didn't move anywhere for about 5-10 seconds. I'm wondering if the same things happened.
There was also the car. Yeah, I think Kyle might have already been disqualified before the start because there was a gap behind the guy in P3.
We have seen that before.
Like an empty grid slot.
I think that's happened to Kyle before. Recently, did that not happen to him in Imola?
No, in Imola he crashed with Ben, didn't he?
No, I think he was DSQ because I feel that's happened to him before. We can obviously look it up, although we are under VSC, not full safety car. But I think that's not a new problem for Kyle. Oh dear, it's Connor's giving up again. As we go green once again in Saudi Arabia, and OKK by the way has made himself all the way up to P9 on that. So that is a terrific. Oh. Gareth's just straight lined it into the wall at the final corner, and out of the race he goes as well. Now towards turn 1 we got some side-by-side action. Jamie Wright, who's on the harder medium tyres compared to Risky's of course softs, trying to fight away. Same with Ben Howard getting past you there, Pete. It makes more sense I suppose to let these soft guys through, right?
I did battle him into turn 1, and then there was a bit of contact, so I thought, I'm not going to worth risking my car. So I just let him through on the exit of turn 2.
Very sensible. I tell you what though, Owen, the
Oh,
Kyle...
KK, my goodness!
Oh.
He's in the middle of the track, well avoided everybody, because that could easily have been a major, major incident. But OKK's brilliant start, unfortunately, has come to nothing. He falls all the way back to 15th, also known as last.
Yeah. I was going to say, with Kyle and Kyle and Gareth out of this race, it spells good news for the likes of Casper and Yuri. Of course, Yuri only -3 off the drop zone, and Casper sitting +1 at the moment. So if they can make some ground on Gareth, it'll leave Kyle in a very vulnerable spot where he'd have to win next week in Mexico, and Gareth's going to have work to do certainly in Mexico, fending off the guys of Yuri and Casper. But a long way to go. They may not even finish the race.
So looking at Imola again, that is what happened to Kyle. He got disqualified before the race even started, before the lights even came on. So I think that might just be another issue for Kyle, that unfortunately he's not been able to do anything about it. That can ruin a championship, obviously, for a driver who's in the knockout zone at the minute by a point, as Yuri on the inside there of MK Bourne moves himself up into the top 10. Now, obviously the pit window is now open, so obviously if you're on a 2-stop, perhaps we'll see some earlier stops. The 2 stages are at 6 and 12, also worth thinking about if you're on soft, so you can probably get them that far. But do you want to risk the undercut? As another car's gone off, and it's Jamie Griffiths this time. The whole front wine's gone. Potential for safety car again, but they're reluctant to put them out here in Saudi Arabia today. I'm amazed we've not had one so far. Only a VS.
It's an easy position for OKK, that one, isn't it? But yeah, I was going to say, very deja vu, isn't it? As OKK crashes and is out. The deja vu as we see Jake and Ben Shaw dominating this race once again, and there is your safety car.
I think if you're on soft, surely you pit now, don't you? Take your free safety car, stop, and work the rest of your race out. Because if one does it, they'll all have to do it because of the way that the pack sort of bunches together. And Jamie Griffiths, without the front wing, he could have just slowed it down. He would have got his free stop, but no, he's decided to speed. And that's a real waste of a race. Now, if you're pitting here, you've got to be committed to the left-hand side pretty early on. I think on the safety car, though, even if you aren't, I think it'll be pretty clear what the idea is, isn't it? Even Jamie Wright's coming into the pits, but Risky stays out. Kieran leads now. And, yeah.
I don't fully understand that one. If, with the exception of Pete, I think everybody else should have pitted there.
I guess there's always the potential for stacking, isn't there? That's what I'd be worried about in this situation.
True.
But
very true.
No one appears to be stacking as of now, although MK Bourne, I think he's got a 5-second penalty he's taking. That's good to get out of the way now. Leroy had a broken front wing. Obviously, Jamie Griffiths did as well. He's going to be on a set of the hard compound tyres. But yes, Kieran will lead then, and he will pick up a playoff point. And I suppose this is a driver who, I mean, that 1 point will be handy. With Gareth out of the race, it means he's not going to catch. And Casper, well, Casper's now third out of the guys who've pitted. So that's where he might fall into trouble. But again, Casper's so far off. So is this Kieran just guaranteeing a point here and seeing where he ends up at the end, I wonder? It could end up being a decent decision, this actually. Risky, however, I don't get. Yuri and Michelle Grace, I don't get them either.
No, especially not on the softs. What you say about Kieran is very valid, actually. It takes him a point closer to J. Luke and one further away from Gareth. Kieran actually following the back of the safety car very closely, isn't he?
Yeah, needlessly close. There's no need to do that.
I don't understand the risk there.
No risk worth taking on the safety car, frankly. We always see people doing this. It's like they're almost asleep at the wheel. Because you're not really concentrating as much. I don't know if you ever find this, Pete, where under a safety car you're more just waiting for it to end. Do you lose concentration under a safety car?
Speaking of which, I nearly ran into the back of Risky, to be fair. If you leave enough gap to the car ahead, you think, I can just cruise up to the next corner. But because the pace of the safety car decides to go through these corners compared to the F1 cars, you just catch up to the back of the car in front of you really quickly. You've got to be very aware on those safety car restart, on the safety car laps and the restart as well.
Right, and I don't think I'm going to see anyone pitting this time round, even if they have realised they've made a mistake, i.e. Risky, Yuri and Michelle. I think they're all just probably going to stay out at this point, and indeed they will. So I imagine we will go green at the end of this current lap 5, and Kieran will have to lead this restart lap to pick up the playoff point. Risky will be on the better tyre, so he might have an opportunity to nick a point here. He finds himself 6 points off Michel Goris in the standing, so that 1 point will be handy for him. He's obviously a couple of places ahead of him on the road, and with Ben Harrett in the pits, he'll probably end up jumping him, and I think Ben Harrett is now putting himself in the position to be the favourite to take the lead of the chase at the end of this. But still, there's points to play for, and Kieran and Risky could both well do with that point. And if you get really lucky, Pete, you can nick it if they have any sort of issues. But you're all speed drivers. When you're doing a restart like this, when you've got the speed drivers all around you, I guess you're naturally more cautious.
Yeah, a bit more cautious. We also have whoever's the leading speed driver, we get them to give us a green light whenever they're going to go. But me now not being in the party, I'm just going to have to guess, like every normal person has to on these kind of restarts.
Pete, would you like me to abuse my power as an honourable speed member to let you know when Kieran goes?
I mean, it's up to you, it's your commentary.
You're in that position.
I probably won't be acting time anyway. I've got to get these hard tyres back up to a nice temperature if we're going to go green this lap.
I mean, for once you're actually at the front, you'll be able to see him take the restart, I suppose. I see this often in real life. There's something a very good point during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend where Max Verstappen actually spent his whole time watching Charles Leclerc, I think it was him, for the restart in the sprint. Rather than looking at the driver directly in front of you, you look at the leader for the restarts. I don't know if the other drivers follow that sort of same mentality, but it obviously got him alongside and past, I think it was George Russell doing that, because he reacts to the leader rather than the guy in front of him. So, yeah, there's always a bit of psychology that obviously goes into these restarts, so you never truly know what's going to happen. All you do know is where the restart zone is, and that is at the exit of this final corner as we get to the DRS detection or the DRS activation point, which is, if you look on the map, bottom right hand corner. The safety car's just going over that now. It's where that green sort of gradient starts, and well, this is all very tight, and Kieran's clearly trying to get plenty of tyre temperature in. Very easy to run into the back of other drivers here.
We almost saw Risky going to the back of Kieran there, actually, with the weaving that was going on, but no damage done, and it's all over to Kieran then, Owen, for this restart.
And he can go at any point from now. So we'll ride on board, and we'll see when he gets underway. He's taking his time, and he's slowly easing the throttle in, and now he's away. Brilliant restart. Straight away, will lead that one into turn 1 unless there's some sort of crazy dive bomb. 3 wide though, further behind. Yuri's on your inside, and you've got Michel Goris as well trying to go through. And somehow there's been no collision. Good driving. As we do see further behind though, Iceman and Casper, crucially, both going off the road. Michel Goris fancied it into turn 4 but backed out, and that'll compromise his run all the way through the S section. Is there any damage on Casper? I think he's lost his front wing. He has! The whole front wing's gone, and that could be a championship deciding accident. That is terrible luck for Casper. Kieran leads by a second. If he can just get to the end of this lap, he will pick up that playoff point, as Jake O'Sullivan is already putting 2 cars in front of Ben Harrett, who's now net second place, or net third place. I should obviously say that Jake has to still pass you yet, Pete, because you are the net race leader at the moment. But if the race would finish with the pit stops now, it'd be Pete, it'd be Jake, it'd be Ben Spurs, who's got Jamie Wright all over the back and using his ERS very early on. This is risky stuff down towards turns 22 and 23, but Jamie Wright's done it, and into the wall on the inside, on the outside I should say, goes Ben Harrett. Hopefully there's no collision or no damage. Damage is the word I'm looking for. Jake coming through, and it's very exciting this, Jay. I don't know what to watch. Jake's going to come through on you, Pete, but we've got 4-way scrap behind. Yuri on the inside. Jamie Wright trying to put a car between himself and Ben Harrett, and he might well pit actually here, Yuri, as will Michel Goris. Oh, and nearly into the pack goes Yuri, but it's Michel getting the time penalty for speeding. And, well, Jamie Wright, he's got to chase after you two now up the front, and, well, I assume that'll get pretty tasty at some point. Although Jamie Wright's never always been the best round here, has he? And Jake obviously is the best round here. But we'll see what happens. And Kieran
Jamie
did
Wright.
indeed get that playoff point.
Yeah, and Jamie Wright will blame it on being a pad driver, but that's a him problem, isn't it? Around a wheel track like Singapore. Singapore? Saudi Arabia. God, it's one of those nights, Owen. Jamie Wright very close to winning the championship here in Season 5. Alright, he finished 5th out of the 5 contenders, but it was very, very close at the finish line.
He was there
Well,
with
of course
5 laps to go. They were all there with 5 laps to go. It's one of those competitive
exactly.
championship 5s we've ever had. And look at that.
They're the
That's
best ones.
That's just a let through there, isn't it, for Risky? That was way too easy for Jake to get through. Does he not realise that Jake is fighting Pete for net race lead at the moment? That's not very good team play there, is it?
I got damage as well, by the way.
Was that from turn 1 on the restart?
It was turn 1, yes. I will be having words with Yuri and Michelle, don't you worry?
I look forward to seeing them words. Hopefully they're nice and public. As we see MK
Nice
Bourne,
public.
MK Bourne nearly going into the back there of Ben Harrett. It's a shame MK Bourne's out of this championship because he's not driving a bad race at all. Up in the top 5 at the moment, and that is still with Kieran to pit from the race lead. Kieran, the only driver who has to make 2 stops, who's yet to make the first stop. So we've nearly got an established order. Now, Jamie Wright will be picking up some DRS on this lap, and well, if he's got any chance of catching Jake today, he's got to get past you, Pete, pretty quickly. And he will stay on the soft tires. He probably will do it quite easily.
I've got no pace through the S's because of this damage, so I'm just going to stick it out and see what happens.
What damage is it, Pete? Like, what colour are we looking
Front
at?
right M plate orange.
Ooh, that is
Oh, dear.
really not good, is it? It didn't look as big a hit as that on the restart, I guess. Well, clearly it was.
And it's still on your car as well, the end plate.
Yeah. We're not calling you a liar, but it's just all that sort of concept. I suppose that's simulation damage for you. We always sort of say it can be so dramatic even though it doesn't look that way. And Jamie Wright, I mean, he's not actually that fast at the moment. I don't know, it doesn't feel like he's really at his full pace at the minute. Maybe he knows he's on a guy's on hards, but I sort of expected this to be a lot quicker. I mean, Jake's 3.5 seconds down the road now.
This pad tax, Owen, that's what that is. Saudi Arabia pad tax. He's going to get Pete, though, down into turn 1, setting on the DRS.
He's out of DRS in a minute. That's not the best setup on Jamie Wright's car, or something's up there, because that's not a car that's going to win this race at the minute. I'm sure of that.
So we see Pete pushing him through turn 2 as well. So, referring to the slowness that you mentioned of Jamie Wright, he has got the move done though. Can he pull away and make something of it? Of course, 1 stop already done. He could do with a good result. Could Jamie try and close that gap to Ben Shaw, who's down in P8?
There must be. He's losing a second in the first sector, and Pete, obviously, you're all over the back, and you have damage. So there must be something up there for Pete. It's not normal to be this slow.
Not on the soft tyres.
No, it's only a few laps on them as well. They wouldn't be wearing yet because a couple of us were under the safety car conditions, weren't they? So that's
he's really struggling.
Bizarrely
really struggling.
slow. Is it
Those
floor
tyres-
damage, diffuser, something? Because the front line looks absolutely fine. As we
They're
see
5 laps old.
see the move for the lead, by the way, about to happen as Jake on the DRS. Kieran, nothing he can realistically do, I don't think, here, as Jake actually just holds off on the DRS for a moment, or the ERS, I should say. Maybe just going to get him into turn 1, prevent any sort of comeback if he gets past too early, like we saw in the real life race in 2022 and 2021, where they were all playing chicken with the detection points, something that's going to change for 23, assuming they actually update the track. Running outside, though, towards turn 1, there's not a massive point really in defending this, but Kieran's trying to anyway, and it is putting Jake off.
That worked as well. I think he might have forced at least a
warning,
a corner cut warning, yeah.
Yeah.
And Kieran retains the lead because of it. That might have flustered Jake a little bit.
And there was a
He knows he's the faster driver, so he can just regather himself and go again when the opportunity inevitably arises.
decent little bit of wheel binding there as well. Obviously, we're seeing how easy it is to pick damage up around here. I am wondering if Ben Harrett does have any damage after he tagged the wall in the restart lap as well. He's running in a very strong position, of course, and when it comes to the chase, I believe, obviously, he's got to catch you, Pete, but in terms of where he is in the Chase Championship, this is probably working out best for him at the moment. Running P6, that'll possibly become P5 later on in proceedings. And he's in the DRS zone of MK Bourne, who's nearly on your DRS zone, Pete, although of course you're getting plenty of it off the back of a very slow Jamie Wright, who might end up causing a bit of a train here because there's a few
I think he's playing
this.
tactics. I think he's playing tactics, trying to back me up into Ben.
Well, Ben, I can tell you, is on the back of the train that will be catching up to you guys relatively soon. Jake is on the DRS again, but not on the ERS. He doesn't even want to risk it anymore, so yeah, it's halted his progress a little bit, this. I guess he thought Kieran would be a bit of a pushover. I thought it'd be a bit of a pushover, but Kieran's, I guess, racing him as if it were for position. And I suppose there's always a potential for another safety car, and you could turn around to him and say, oh, I'll let him get 5 seconds down the road, I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, the chasing driver, not really as fast as he'd hope. I mean, it gives him a chance to save the ERS, but Kieran's got plenty of it anyway, so he can defend if he needs to.
Yeah. And this train you're talking of, Owen, of all the drivers Pete doesn't want behind him, is arch nemesis MK Bourne, as we see Pete make a mistake.
It's the wing damage.
It is the wing damage. Is there anybody worse, in your view, of who could be behind you?
No, not really. Considering the thing is, me and MK Bourne went side by side through cops at Silverstone, I think, last season.
Move for the lead's happening now. I don't know if that's a clever place to do it or not, because he's done it on the run towards 22. He then goes wide through 22, slows him down a bit for 23, and Kieran is going to come straight back past him on the main straight, I would have thought. And this game of chicken will continue. Pete, obviously you've had enough, and you've seen the train behind you. We'll see how much fight Jamie really has now, if he has been backing up, or if he really doesn't have the pace. Is Kieran going to come straight back past Jake? Obviously they're scrapping for the second playoff point, that's why Kieran's still out. And well, he leads the race for the moment, but this is getting a properly good wheel-to-wheel scrap. Jake is through, on the way through turn 2 and 3, and I think Kieran would be mental to go for a dive on with the 4, but he's closing, he's looking, but he's backing off, and I think Jake might well end up picking that points up. A valiant effort there from Kieran, and of course he will have 2 DRS zones on this lap if he can stay close enough. Maybe there's a chance, but we'll have to see on that one. And yeah, I think this is genuinely bad pace from Jamie Wright. He's nearly went off and he's lost the whole second to you in that first sector, Pete. So this gives you a bit of breathing room now. Obviously, you're looking well good to still be net second place at the end of the proceedings here.
I'll be happy with that. I'll take second place. As I said, start of the race, would have been happy with a top 5 finish. The damage is a bit of a issue now.
Here comes.
Tyre wears are starting to.
Oh,
go.
Oh. Kieran's made Jake defend into turn 22. You never want to do that. As MK Bourne is at the 4th place, but here comes Kieran, right around the outside of 25 and 26, wow, and he is going to lead the race again. And I think he's going to take that second playoff point, because surely there's no way Jake will have the run out of the final corner to do him again. And did he maybe wait 1 lap too little to pass Kieran? That's a second crucial playoff point he's picked up there. He set his fastest lap of the race while doing it, and he's had a wee weave across the line as well. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's very happy with himself, as he should be.
Until last week as well, not one driver had led both stages this season. Of course, Ben Shaw did it last week, and Kieran makes it 2 for the season now in Saudi Arabia.
And Jamie Wright letting drivers through now. That was a very clear sort of wave through there for Ben Harrett.
He won't let the next one through though, will he?
I was about to say, no, it's Ben Shaw. That's a very different story. And this is going to be very interesting because he's having a look already. Wow. Well, that was easy, wasn't it?
Brave. What a move.
That was a move into turn 9. I don't think I've ever seen a move into turn 9, but, well, Iceman knew he had to do it, and he's done. And I think Jamie's tyres are probably going to start to struggle a little bit now, but he's not on for a very good result tonight, at all. I mean, he's not obviously going to lose too much because Gareth's having a bad. Well, he's not even in the race. Casper's last. Kyle's disqualified, and Yuri is behind him. So I suppose this isn't really going to cost Jimmy Wright too much of the championship. You're allowed a bad race every now and then.
Jamie Wright.
Jake is being overtaken again for Lee. We didn't even see him come back through because I sort of assumed that this was going to happen.
He's got a puncher. Front right puncher for Jamie Wright. He went straight on at turn, I don't know, 22 I think it is, Owen.
Oh! No! Oh, what are we going to say about this one? Because Jake has just... Well, he's crashed into the back of Kieran on the way into the pits and then overtaken him on the way through the pit lane entry. And, well, I think if there's any diffuser damage on the back of Kieran's car, you'll have some questions to ask. But it has got Jake in front, and he's now finished his pit stop strategy, of course. And I guess at this point, Pete, you're looking at safety car, aren't you?
Yep, that's the aim. The tyres aren't really dying off, the hards. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Oh, don't talk to him, Owen.
Sorry. You really need
Look
to
at me trying to talk to the S's, but
with damage
going to come with the damage.
Shocking.
Yeah, I'm trying to drive as well as I can, but we'll see what we can do.
Now Kieran's going to end up doing 2 quick stints on the softs. He's also looking at a safety car, so he can make that second stop, I suppose, and not lose too much time. But assuming there is no damage on his car after that contact, I'm surprised there wasn't any speeding going on when they sort of bumped into each other as well. They're possibly very lucky to get away with this, but Kieran, he had pace before, he'll have pace again, and he'll have to try and overtake Jake, pull away, and I guess wait for that safety car. What this will do, it'll put him in a position to potentially go for the fastest lap later on as well, which gets him another playoff point.
Yeah.
So he's also possibly on course to lead the most laps. Depends how long you say it, Pete, really. But here comes Kieran again, and he's going to come through, probably on the main straight, because he's just going to pull alongside now, get the detection point, which he has done, cut back on the exit, and overtake Jake once again. And it'll be as easy as that. Pretty simple stuff. They've got 8 seconds behind them. They don't really have to risk too much doing this. And I think Jake knows that Kieran has to pit again anyway. So if I'm him, I'm just following him and getting the ERS saved up now. Because you don't have to bicker over playoff points for stages because we're done that now.
Meanwhile, Owen, Pete leads his 201st lap. His first since round 2 of the season as well.
Yes, only got 1 penalty on the way through.
Yep.
To ruin it somehow, didn't you?
And I'm just wondering as well with the pit lane incident regarding Kieran and
Holy fucking shit, sorry, excuse the language.
Oh, that's alright. We'll cut that out. Yeah, between Kieran and Jake, I do wonder if Kieran maybe slowed down a bit earlier to not get a penalty, and then that's what caught Jake out, but we'd have to watch it back and see if there's any complaints from either party.
Iceman coming through there on Michelle Gorris into turn 13, and NK Bourne has caught you by a second. Have you actually hit the wall or something again?
No, I lost the back end on you know the corner where I went straight on in qualifying.
Yes.
Lost the back end, just caught the car, and that's why the explicit language came out of my mouth. So I do apologise for that.
Well, anything I was just saying about Jake not passing Kieran again is seemingly not proving very accurate, as Kieran happily lets him through into the final corner. Because he's just going to DRS him again. This is just going to stat pad overtakes for the lead. We've had so many lead changes today, my goodness. Oh! Well covered off there by Jake, and that nearly caused a bit of an accident because Kieran, I don't think, was expecting that. But he does come through back into second place on the road. These two will probably catch you at some point, Pete, before you pit. Depending on how long you fancy staying out for, because I imagine on these tyres, both DRSing each other, they will be rapid. NK Bourne's in the pits again. We only have a couple more drivers who need to pit again, being Risky and Jamie Griffiths, who's actually about to crash with Michelle Gorris. That was very close, and NK Bourne nearly isn't it? They're free wide to turn 4. That's a risky thing to do, and quite how they're all still alive after all that is frankly beyond me. I think NK Bourne will take it there with the spin, because really into there you should be having an airplane crash, and they've avoided it. But back to what I was saying. It's going to need to be Pete obviously pitting again, Risky, Jimmy Griffiths, Michelle Gorris, and Yuri for their second stops. Or Joker stop if you're Pete, of course.
And good news for Pete as well is obviously with the except Kieran's got to pit again, but Jake is the only man inside the top 8 who doesn't have a penalty. So Pete looking at a nice podium should he go the next 10 laps without any errors. Leroy's struggling through whatever corner number that is behind MK Bourne, just sort of washed up a bit. But back into DRS, I think that he's going to get him on the next DRS section as he throws it in under that building. I assume it's some sort of hotel. Do you know, Owen?
I don't know. I'm watching the fight for the net race lead again. Kind
never
of.
mind.
As we see
Kieran up the inside.
nicely defended once again. He had Jake coming at him, but was easily able to throw one up the inside again, and confident racing there from two of the favourites definitely for the championship, the reigning champion and the previous champion before him, of course, our two most recent champions. I could have just said that. Kieran and Jake fighting away here in Saudi Arabia, and they're getting very close to the S's as well, so they're very confident to follow each other, and yeah, long may it continue, I suppose. It's exciting racing to watch. As Leroy does get through on MK Bourne, he's probably going to have some nightmares about turn 4 and 5 later on, and they're actually going to continue the whole way through the S's this time. That is getting very risky, and well, that was a bit rude, but MK Bourne shoves Leroy off the road, and yeah, fair enough, shows his dominance there, I suppose, to the situation, because I thought he was just going to back off after the accident on the last lap, but he was having none of it. And well, you never guess who's fighting again. As we see, I mean, the ERS difference is quite massive. You know, Jake could... He is in full control here. It doesn't maybe look like it, but he's in full control. They're both pulling away from Risky still. I mean, Iceman's on Risky, so he'll pass him soon, but there's 12.5 seconds between net second, or net first, and I suppose net second for now, but it depends how much, I suppose, pace you'll have at the end, Pete, but it's probably going to be net first and net second, Jake and Iceman, and yeah, 12 seconds between them. So I mean, they can muck about here, assuming there's no more safety cars. But even then, penalties are involved. Jake has this exactly how he wants it, I think.
Yep. And, Jake looking at 3 Saudi Arabia wins in a row. Just there are a couple of examples of where that's happened before as he picks up the penalty.
There goes that then. I think if we get another safety car in, Ben Harrett will be very excited to pick up another win this season.
Just trying to think of 3-time winners like in a row. I think Jamie Wright has done it in Brazil and Texas, but not consecutively.
Has he?
Yeah.
Oh, it's consecutively, I was going to say.
Yeah.
I don't think it can't have happened consecutively.
I don't think so. So Jake very much on to be the first one to ever do that. Ben Harrett gets past Michelle. Michelle tries to hang it around the outside, and we'll try and challenge back up the inside here, Owen.
That's, yeah, don't do that.
Good racing.
And luckily he's not done that, because that was good racing. And Jake now has a full bar of ERS, so yeah, let's say fully in control, happy to do whatever he wants out there. And you know, Kieran's pace as well at the end of this race, because he obviously hasn't got any penalties. Keep an eye on this, because as we finally see Pete you into the pits, Kieran will try and lead a couple more laps. He's starting to weave already. He's realised what's happening, and Jake's up the inside. Little bit of wheel binding, once, twice, 3 times, and Kieran holds on, because he'll be pretty quick at the end, because of Iceman being 12 seconds behind. You just never know what pace will be available on new tyres for the remaining couple of laps, and Pete will obviously get to give us a little bit of an idea of how fast they'll be. But Kieran's driving a superb race here, as is Jay. These two have been class at the field, and it's just a shame that Kieran needs a safety car. If he gets one though, he'll probably pit and be able to come out second place, as Jake has a look into turn 13 and nothing doing as they remain side by side for the exit. This is just terrific. Oh, Ben Harrett's had a big accident. Oh, does anyone collect him? That is so dangerous. The safety car he's been looking for is out.
One lap too fucking late, sorry.
Yeah, 1 lap too late. But Leroy, who we were saying about being washed up, he's finished his pit stop strategy. He's got the whole field in front of him with penalties. We're only going to get 3-4 laps of racing here. There's a potential here, a big potential. And obviously Kieran will be able to get through there as well. It's exactly what he's been looking for. He'll be on to new slots, but how many will follow him into the pits? Because I'm sure there'll be a few drivers thinking, do you know what? I might do a Jacko here. pit under the last safety car and
Hey.
come through the field.
I'll tell you what, it worked for me, didn't it? And this is all Cup Series drivers as well, so if I can do it, all of these guys can do it. Let's have a look at the pit lane. Kieran in,
Top two, do
Jake
not-
stays out.
Thought about it. Now, upon seeing Kieran into the pit, what will Iceman do? He will stay out. Risky has to pit again. This works out well for him, as does Yuri, Michel Goris, so they'll definitely be in. NK Bourne, I believe, will stay out. Indeed he does. Oh, nicely done! Did you see that?
No.
What an overtake that was. That was perfection. He went around the outside of the pit lane entries at MK4, and of course you can overtake in the pit lane of the safety car. Michel Goris has just been absolutely mugged off.
I'm just watching
Fantastic.
it back on the stream. That's fantastic.
That was brilliant. The whole field has pitted here, bar the top two. Fantastic. Kieran will be absolutely loving this because he's already essentially the net race leader now, thanks to the lack of a penalty. If only you didn't end up with a penalty, Pete, you would have been right up there. But if Kieran picks one up, you'll be right in the fight. I'll let you know what Kieran's warnings are, actually. That's probably a useful thing to check at this stage of proceedings.
You do that, I'll run the order.
None.
So
He's
Jake
got none.
leads. Jake leads from Iceman. They are the two that have dominated the two races here before in the Cup Series. Kieran, the first man without a penalty, and on fresh softs. Pete Knighton on 1 lap old softs. And of course, our driver commentator recycles back to the front. Risky, having a great race in P5.
MK Bourne's just DC'd. No, not after that overtake. That's cruel. EA for you there. But yeah, Leroy then on this restart. Ooh,
I got
that's
it.
it. That's it. No, Kaya's asking the wrong question. Sorry, I've been asked a question by Kaya. No, Kieran made his first pit stop under green flag conditions, so he's good on the safety car stops. Just if anyone else is worrying, but Kaya was worrying. But no, Leroy's got a chance here. I'm looking at where he is in the chase. I was saying before he shouldn't really be in the chase, should he? But if he stays
-9.
penalty free, -9, there's a podium in this for him. We can always turn around and say, oh, there's so many cars at penalty front, he'll win the race. Possibly not as exciting as that, because obviously there's field spread, but there's a podium in this for him. And Ben Harrett, despite crashing, is also in the potential for the podium, and he's the chase leader. So he'll be looking at Leroy, Leroy will be looking at him, and they'll both be looking ahead and seeing if anyone happens to Kieran, because Kieran is in a tricky spot. He's in a really tricky spot because he's going to naturally be faster than Iceman and Jake. I don't think he's going to want to engage in too much fighting with him. I think he might have no choice because obviously, I guess if you see a chance, Pete, you'll take it. But you know, Kieran's actually in a slightly awkward position because you don't want to be too cautious or too aggressive, but he's got the position where he kind of has to be both.
Well, bear in mind there are no teams in JACKOCAR. I mean, Speed and ART will tell you otherwise, but it is one of those moments at this point of the season where you've got to race for yourself. In my eyes. So if I'm Kieran, or if I'm Pete, or Risky, in fact, if I'm anyone down to Jess, I'm going for this win. Those two at the front, they may be the fastest on paper, but the way Kieran's been driving today, you wouldn't rule them out for a win. And of course, anybody behind him. This is JACKOCAR, Owen. Anything can happen.
Just to be clear, by the way, all these penalties for the top 7 are 3-second penalties. Casper's is 6 seconds, Jamie Griffiths is 3 as well. So basically, in that top 7, everything that Ben Harrett upwards is chasing for, it's 3-second penalties for all of them. So that's just a bit of guidance there. I wonder if we talked about that wheel binding moment at turn 1 where Jake ended up off the road, and we thought that might have given him a warning. Could you imagine if that's the one warning that was just one too many? Kieran will be feeling very proud of himself if that's how he wins this race.
And there's no argument as well from that, because those penalties don't get removed regardless of the nature that they are picked up in. But anyway,
we do have a
I'm going to leave this up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try and engage my brain for this one. It's getting a bit late at night. We're normally still streaming at this time of the evening. As Jake gets himself towards the detection point, or the activation point, which is there. And again, he's just feathering the throttle. Even a little bit of brakes on there, and he's away. And Kieran's away well. He's going to be alongside Iceman. And Risky's up ahead of Pete already. Ben Harritt's had a fantastic start. Leroy's fallen right down. Ben Harritt through turn 1 cuts the corner, but doesn't pick up any penalties. Kieran, second place. Pretty much just has to stay there now and not make any big mistakes. He's got 3 warnings to play with, so he should be alright. And, is that Michel Goris moving up the road? Our chase leader. Oh my goodness! Casper nearly took out Ben Harritt on the way through the S, and I can't quite believe he's still in the race after that. And has Ben got some sort of damage after his accident earlier on, I wonder, because he's looking very slow. And he's already being attacked again by Casper on the outside. Nothing doing there. And he really does have to be properly cautious. That's the issue. I mean, how do you be cautious in this situation? It's really, really tricky stuff as they all scrap through the S's. Look at this. This is a massive train that Ben's got. There must be some sort of diffuser or floor damage. Something's not right there because he's been done so easily. And we've got Jamie Griffiths side by side with Michel Goris through into 22-23. That's something you've got to stop pretty soon. Leroy happily will try and get his way
into
through.
the wall, but gets away with it. Sorry.
Kieran,
there goes Kieran,
side by side. No DRS to play with here, so Jake this time is going to have to start getting his elbows out, and that's exactly what he's doing. He nearly feeds Kieran into the wall in the final corner. Risky passes Iceman, and Pete will be on this as well, but we're focusing on the fight for the race lead as well, Kieran's on the outside. That's exactly where Jake wants him to be, because I imagine he's going to feed him straight off the road. Indeed he does.
Yep.
But Kieran, he's not going to get him on the exit. Oh, nearly loses his front wing as well. So
and
let's see if I'll let you check. I got a warning, Jacko, but I wonder if it did.
I'm not checking. I'm telling you that lap led by Jake is an important one, because Jake and Kieran both now on 9 laps led in this race. The other 4 went to Pete Knighton. So of course that there is a playoff point at stake here as Risky gets a penalty.
Oh, here comes Kieran again. This is tricky stuff around the outside. In towards turn 13, and look at the defence there from Jake. And the collision!
Contact!
Oh my goodness, they're still going though. Fantastic. That could easily have been a big moment. And it might still prove to be that way because Kieran now has track position. There's no DRS until the next lap. And Jake might just be about to give it everything on this back straight. He doesn't risk it into 22, does he? He's got the run for it, but I think he's better suited to just waiting until the final corner. But the elbows are definitely out now. They are putting everything on the table, and this is getting tricky. Oh, Pete. Oh my goodness. Out of the race he goes. But here comes Jake on the way through to the final corner. He's again just waiting for his moment. You can almost smell the dive bomb into turn 1, can't you? It's about the only way you'll be able to get Kieran penalised in this situation. They've both got similar ERS levels. They're both using the ERS, and Risky has joined the party on these newer soft compound tyres, which makes this even more tricky for Jake, who's still not able to make anything work. Here comes Casper into turn 1 as well. Iceman obviously on older tyres. He's going to get done by a couple of cars here in the closing stages, and that gives you more context as to how much of a job Jake has on his hands, because look at how much Iceman struggles on these medians. He's doing well to hold on to position. He's still in 4th place. And
look at
Leroy
Jake. Tries to give a little bump and run on Kieran, but
he's got no
Kieran
choice.
stays there. Oh no, he has to go for it, Owen. He has to go for it because of that penalty that he carries with him.
Yeah, but you've not seen Risky, have you? Risky was pushing them both through the corner. That's the issue.
Risky also has 6 seconds of pens though. That's the issue there.
It's going to be it's still though. It's speed sandwiching an ART driver here. It's in Risky's best interest to also help Kieran out, and he's going to have the best run. This is going to be
what a run.
A massive opportunity, and that means Jake might just have to try and pass into 22. Here he goes, and nearly coming together. Oh, they do touch, and Jake holds on. Round the outside goes Risky. He cuts the corner, might have to let him back through. There's contact, he's going to lose it. Well saved, but on the run down towards 26 and 27. Jake, I think he's going to have to play chicken again here, isn't he? And indeed he does! Oh! Pushing Kieran into a little bit of a scary moment. Oh no, he's been turned! Oh, that's just a disaster. That's never what you want to see, is it? And Kieran has stopped. Kieran is stopping on the road, which means I think Risky might be about to win this race. And you go side by side there with Casper into turn 1. Possibly Yuri could win this as well. We'll see how this moves on. But Risky puts Casper into the wall. It was Risky, who turned Jake around. I don't know if Kieran realises that. That's bizarre for him to slow down and let him free. I'm wondering if he's mistakenly thought that he was at fault for the accident. As we see, Risky with his penalties. Just to remind you then, with where we stand, Yuri is leading this race. And round outside goes Jamie Griffiths, and this is to try and get set in place. It's a bit late to do this.
Casper has a moment, wow! And then blocks Jamie Griffiths.
Bit late to be getting this before the sort of performance now. In fact, it might end up being Leroy taking that second place, so keep an eye on that. We'll see how penalties work things out. I'm amazed Kieran didn't realise what was happening there. I think he'll be kicking himself once he realised that
given up the win.
Had nothing to do with him. It had nothing to do with him, though. Now, as Rescue's off the road again, here comes Yuri, surely, just like we saw when he won the championship here in the Kia series. He's just going to keep it to himself and not do anything silly. Leroy knows he's got to get out the road, and he's doing so. Leroy, I'm not sure how this is going to work, because Leroy, it's going to be Yuri or Leroy who wins this race. Let's see. Yuri, side by side with Risky to the line. Leroy's pretty close. Leroy's won the race. Brilliant final lap then for Leroy to win by 0.081. And Kieran, after all that, he was only 2/10 off the win. Saudi Arabia has produced one of the wildest races I've ever seen.
Well, I think it's got to stay on the calendar, isn't it?
That is 2 chase winners then in 3 races. Can you believe it? And I believe that
Yuri will be gutted as well, by the way.
Oh, he won't. I bet he won't have even had a clue that Leroy was there. And of course, it's Leroy of all drivers. The second time the Cup Series has seen Leroy and Yuri, the 2 Hasselager brothers, finish 1-2, and both in equally dramatic circumstances. What a race that was! I do think Kieran. I don't think he's realised that it was sort of.
Well, Kieran and Jake were getting very aggressive at the end.
Actually. They are getting very aggressive. What is happening here? Did you see the same incident that I saw? Because I swear it was. I swear it was Risky. Right, let's do the order first. Leroy wins from Yuri, and then Kieran, Ben, Harriet, who'll be sitting there wondering how on earth he's going to win that race, and how on earth he's not. I don't know if he takes the lead of the chase. I think because Leroy winning the race, I think Ben Harriet and Leroy would be very close. Jamie Griffiths in 5th, Risky 6th, Iceman, Jamie Wright, Casper and Jess, Michelle Gorris, Jake, MK Bourne, Pete, OKK, Gareth, Connor, Wes and Kyle. But
Ben Harriet leads a chase by a point.
Yes, I thought it would be quite close. But let's see this, because I don't know. I thought it was Risky who ended up tapping him round. I could be wrong.
I'm sure it was Risky.
I was on board with him, like.
I don't know if there's any beef between Jake and Kieran from the pit lane incident.
There is. They're talking about that at the moment.
I'll worry about that in a second.
There's a lot that they are fighting about. They are fighting about a lot, but I don't actually think the ending incident that they had was anything to do with either of them. It was actually Risky. I bet Risky will stay nice and quiet about that, of course, until they watch the replays and discover the horrible truth, which is actually that them 2 were innocent at the end. But yeah.
Wow.
I know obviously you didn't get the result in the end, Pete, but what a time to retire. You got to watch all that unfold on the spectator mode. I
did indeed. And the battle behind as well for that final spot on the podium when they were only 4 wide into the final hairpin. I can't remember who it was, but Leroy getting the jump on all of them. Bit annoyed with myself, having caught that curb, just couldn't catch the car, and I was just trying to hound in on Risky because of the mistakes that Kieran and Jake had up front brought me back into the fight. Just get me off this game.
Did you lose it on the exit in 22? Was that what happened?
Yeah, I think the curb just bounced me over and the car just said no.
We've all done it. We've all done it around Saudi Arabia.
So I think possibly that Leroy would only have popped up in Yuri's view right as he got to the final corner, which is why we saw him go for that push to try and pass Risky the line. I don't think he was aware of how close I was. Because I think he'd be kicking himself there. I think he thought he had that one. We thought he had that one for a little bit. But then Leroy just closed in so much on the final lap. So, very, very dramatic end to the race. I don't think we've ever seen really anything like that. Where the top
Not with
two
that
just
temper.
yeah. I mean, they're properly scrapping in the Twitter chat. I bet admin's going to have a great time with that one, eh, Jacko? But my goodness.
Yes, I can't wait. I'll worry about it after.
As Risky says in the chat, he led a lap, he led the last lap, crossed the line, the lead, finished P6. Don't get penalties then. But yes, that has been your lot then for Saudi Arabia, and my goodness, has that made up for two of the worst races I've ever had to commentate on in this league. After Brazil heavily disappointed, thank goodness Saudi Arabia is always as dramatic as it is, and we'll be in Mexico City for the next race, and well, hoping for the same sort of drama there. Thanks, Pete, for joining us in the commentary box during the race. Shame you ended it in the wall, but at least you got to hear how hectic the race was, because I guess you didn't really see much of it, did you? You were at the front for most of it. And yeah, a bit of insight into how we do our thing, which is... It was enough to scare Jake off forever. Perhaps we'll see you in here again, but thanks for joining fun. Anyway.
It was great fun, actually. You get to hear about what's going on in the rest of the race as well, so people to keep an eye out for.
You get to
and it didn't distract me either, so yeah, didn't distract me either, so anyone who thinks that the commentary is going to distract you during your race, you might need to grow a pair, but you know.
We'll have to get some more big names in, I reckon, Owen.
Well, I think we need to get Jake and Kieran in next week. They're talking about bog roll now. I mean, them two are properly scrapping. Wait till they find out how their fight ended. Oh my goodness. I didn't think it was all that dirty. I mean, for JACKOCAR standards, what was Jake expecting? You know what I mean? Like, what was he actually expecting? But
not a clue.
Oh well.
We shall find out post race, won't we?
Yeah, we will. But I think we'll leave this one now.
Very quickly, next week, Mexico. Jake isn't here for it. So obviously he's already advanced to round of 6, but everything's going to close up next week. Massive.
Well, we'll see what repercussions this week has in terms of the final championship finishing position, but yeah, I mean, it could all be flipped on its head again in Mexico. I mean, Mexico was where it all went flipped on its head last season, certainly if you were considered with a chase, because back then winning races for chase drivers was quite rare, and SD Matt actually became the first to ever do it. But in Mexico, he deliberately crashed out and brought a safety car, got a free race ban, ended his season. Or was it one race or free race ban? Either way, he never showed up again, and it ruined his season. He was on for Championship 5. Hopefully we don't see a chase implosion this season, but I mean, with how competitive the chase is proving to be, we were in for a very interesting end of the season, so do tune in next week. And yeah, me and Jacko will be here. Probably.
I will be.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I should be here. And yeah, we shall see you next week. Thanks for watching. Sorry about our issues in the lobby earlier on, but we certainly gave you a good race to make up for it. And yeah, see you next week. Safe travels.